my next director is a very animated based
I
person.
know we're definitely going to talk about that because I was like, I have some things about that. Yeah, so I was like, that was an interesting choice.
He's a very animated person, but he's not only just animated, but being able to take stories and just giving you the feels, like just giving you the feels. And I'm not going to name him just yet because I want to talk about the story that I really want to portray as him as the director, and that's the Lost Stars series from Star Wars, which is a canon story. Which, if you guys don't know canon, that's Disney.
Hmm.
Anything that Disney bought and so on is canon. Everything before Disney is legend, and it's the Lost Stars. It's a story that depicts two childhood friends, Sienna and Thane, who grew up on or who end up on opposite sides of the conflict where you get to see the entire galactic war. So these guys are in the background of like all the Star Wars movies, more or less, from the first six movies. But they're two soldiers, one with the Galactic Empire, the other one with the Rebel Alliance. They have a friendship that they grew up with each other. And eventually a romance blossoms between the two. But with that romance, there is one that is a Galactic Empire soldier through and through, where she would have nothing of it from Sienna, or I'm not Sienna, from Thane wanting to get her to switch over to his side to fight with the rebels. And she's like, no, we cannot. I cannot leave the Empire because if I leave the Empire, then I want people to know that there still is good people that fight for the Empire, which is an interesting dynamic. It's a very complex story because obviously the Empire isn't all bad people. Just like when we look at politicians, they're not all bad people. There's some people who try to do good, and they're going to try to do good, but then they have a duty to uphold and some other things too as well. So who better to take the story of two people in opposite who've been in opposite turmoil, being able to have fun with random creatures and put it in an animation style that's very unique than Studio Ghibli's own Hayao Miyazaki. Now, you may know him from Howl's Moving Castle, Spirited Away, and My Neighbor Totoro. But I think he has a complete track record of being able to hit you in the feels because I think the story itself can hit you in the feels and then be able to do two different stories, two different situations, and be able to show the conflict between the two and the good between the two as well. But he's also able to make you feel extremely sad. But there's a lot of feeling in his stories. There's a lot of meaning in his stories, and he's not afraid to play around with like mythical creatures or creatures in general. Which in this world, the Star Wars world, there's so many. There's so many creatures and things that we don't get a chance to see, and he'd be able to flesh it out for sure. And I know it may not be part of the actual canon itself, but he can do his own creative twist with it, and then there'll be some fun with that. So I think he'd be an interesting director for this series and a complete change of pace.
I think a lot of people, ever since Star Wars Visions on Disney Plus, a lot of people probably put him up there as like we would love to see Studio Ghibli do some influence on the Star Wars movie, and I think that's a great pick because Spirit Away is probably one of my favorite movies of all time, and the one thing he's really good at is character development and understanding everybody's point of view of a character, of what their reasons are, regardless if you disagree or not, but you understand why they have to do what they have to do or what they believe in. I think this is a wonderful story for it. Especially as a visual person, I would love to see how a Studio Ghibli look of these characters would be. I don't know if you had a chance to watch all of Vision, but the story about these two girls that end up being sisters, one creature was a rabbit kind of creature, and they
Mm-hmm.
rival each other. I think it's called Orca and something else.
Oh, I hadn't seen that.
Yeah, that story itself kind of reminds me of Studio Ghibli because you have this girl alien that lost everything, and she gets adopted by a family of these of this wealthy people that are kind of the protector of, kind of like the rebels of the city or in, and the empire wants to try to take over that city or take over their place so much that the daughter or the girl's sister ends up trading sides because she thinks that's what's best to help this family. It's like, if we have them take over, they can protect us. Instead of fighting against them, we should join them so they can protect us, because it's not just about us. It's not just about us particularly like protecting. It's about make sure everybody's safe. We need to think about that way. So everybody has two different conflicts, but they're both kind of almost right in their own way, right? And that's why I think what Miyazaki does a good job with, of just making these characters understandable what they do. And the knee jerks is especially when they're either related or they're best friends, and where they have to be the bad guy or to do what they got to do. So yeah, I think that's a wonderful pick. I think I think that's possible, and I would like to see that possible, because it doesn't have to be Miyazaki. It could just be Studio Ghibli doing it in general.
Yeah, that's true.
So them just touching something with that would be great. Do I want it as an anthology vision? No, I would love to see just as a movie, just something with that. That would be amazing. So yeah, I think that's a wonderful pick.